Hello.
Hello, police.
Yeah, what's the problem, sir?
We just drove down our farm track.
Yeah.
Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it.
Yeah.
It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. 3 men found dead in a Range Rover in a gangland-style murder were today revealed to be ecstasy barons suspected of providing the drug to tragic Leah Betts. Patrick Tate, Craig Rolfe and Anthony Tucker were shot in the head at point-blank range after apparently being lured to a remote farm track near the village of Rettendon Essex, possibly to discuss a drugs deal. Their bodies were found in a blood-splattered 7-year-old metallic blue Range Rover early yesterday on a snowy track 4 miles from Leah's home in Latchington outside Chelmsford. Murder Squad detectives said all were well-known criminals, and police sources today confirmed they had been involved in ecstasy dealing in local nightclubs like Raquel's in Basildon, where Leah bought a fateful ecstasy tablet on her 18th birthday last month. Tate, 37, from Basildon, was known as a hardened criminal who punched his way out of court 7 years ago as he was due to stand trial on robbery and drug possession charges. The bodies were discovered at 8 AM yesterday by farmer Peter Theobald and his friend Ken Jiggins on their way to feed pheasants on the remote snowy tree-lined track running across bleak open farmland. Shotgun cartridges were found scattered in the snow. Detective Chief Superintendent Ivan Dibley said he believed the men were shot in the car and that the killer would have escaped in a vehicle of his own. He said, quote, "I don't know if we're looking for one perpetrator or 2. Whoever killed these 3 people is clearly a very dangerous man. To that extent, until such time as we catch him, I am concerned that he is still at large." Extra police officers were today drafted in as the hunt was stepped up. Mr. Jiggins, a 44-year-old bricklayer, told how he stumbled across the car on a lonely track known locally as Workhouse Lane. It is a known favourite rendezvous point for criminals and, in summer, for courting couples. The following newspaper article is from the 8th of December 1995 with the headline, 3 shot dead in Leah E-Wars. 3 drug dealers were found shot dead yesterday as the Leah Betts ecstasy tragedy flared into a gang war. The trio, Tony Tucker, Craig Rolfe and Patrick Tate, were blasted in the head with a sawn-off shotgun as they sat in a Range Rover on a lonely farm track in Essex. They are known to have sold ecstasy in the Basildon nightclub where 18-year-old Leah's fatal £10 tablet was bought. They are believed to have become victims of a hitman hired for a ruthless gangland double-cross. Tucker was minder to world champion British boxer Nigel Benn and one of the team who walked the Dark Destroyer to the ring before his fights. The fighter was left devastated by his pal's death. Rolfe and Tate were convicted robbers. Detectives believe that the individuals, all from the Basildon area, walked into a deadly ambush. Their blood-splattered bodies were discovered by a farm worker off the main A130 road between Chelmsford and Basildon. An Essex CID source said last night, quote, "These murders are a direct result of Leah's death, but few tears will be shed over these 3 characters. They were criminal scum who could not care less if youngsters like Leah lived or died. Since her tragic death, we have been putting huge pressure on dealers in Southend and Basildon. Informants have been talking, people have been grasped, and we've made some good arrests. We've really put the cat amongst the pigeons." The dead trio have all made tens of thousands of pounds recently from pushing E. They have been supplying a network of smaller dealers. College student Leah went into a coma and died after taking a single ecstasy tablet during her 18th birthday party at her home in Latchington, Essex. As she lay dying in her parents' arms, Leah whispered the name of the dealer who supplied the tablet. The following newspaper article is from the 21st of January 1998 with the headline, Leah parents were quizzed on murders. The tentacles of a murder investigation can be far-reaching, and the day after the killings they alighted on a rather sensitive nerve, the parents of Leah Betts. Detectives descended on the couple's Latchington home to grill Paul and Janet and was soon forensically testing the pair's shotguns, clothes, even taking fingerprints. In their book, The Party's Over, Living Without Leah, Janet said, quote, "You can imagine my horror when the police arrived. Needless to say, it was not a very pleasant experience, although they assured us from the outset that they were sure we were not connected with the murders in any way." Initially, Paul found it quite amusing. "This is just my luck," he said. "I can just imagine Leah up in heaven giggling her head off at this." But then he realised just how serious the situation was. Paul and I were both interviewed as though we were suspects. We were separated. Paul was taken into the dining room with one officer, and I remained in the lounge with another. The pair had taken the scenic route back from Leah's grave on the day of the shootings, passing close to the scene of the murders. Later that day, Paul, who was labelled the dead men's scum, had driven through the area again, testing out his Lada car's four-wheel drive on the snowy ground. Another reason police were keen to talk to them was that the couple's guns were used for clay pigeon shooting. The three men were shot with cartridges popular with people who follow the sport. Talking about the fingerprinting process, Janet said, quote, "It was a strange feeling. I can understand how easy it is to become upset under these circumstances." While she was being interviewed, an officer asked Janet if she and Paul could verify their movements at the time of the killings. Luckily, they were being filmed by a TV crew and named a reporter who interviewed them. Detectives did check up on their alibi. The couple were questioned because Leah, a Basildon college student who had a Saturday job at the town's Alders store, fell into a coma at her 18th birthday party after taking an Ecstasy tablet. When she was declared dead 5 days later, it emerged a fatal pill had been bought at Raquel's nightclub in Basildon, where Tony Tucker ran the drug supply. But speaking only weeks ago, Superintendent Ivan Dibley, who led the investigation into the killings, revealed that Betts were never serious suspects. Quote, "We work on a process of elimination and had to question everyone who had access to guns." But hypothetically, even if he wanted to do it, how would Mr. Betts have been able to get those three down that lane? Paul, writing in his diary a year after the killings, recorded his feelings about Tate, Tucker and Rolfe. He wrote, quote, "What makes me mad are the fat cats at the top still running clubs and making money. This vengeful feeling is not Christian, I know, but at the moment whoever shot those three men in Rettendon should be the one getting a medal. He did the world a favour." The following newspaper article is from the 14th of December 1995, with the headline, "Fears of Reprisal on Drug Killings." A top Essex detective warned yesterday that there could be reprisals after the slaughter of 3 suspected drug dealers. Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley said after the inquest opened on the 3, "I think there's a real chance that there could be repercussions." The killings had left a vacuum in the drugs distribution network in the county. "It will be filled very quickly because there is big money to be made," Mr. Dibley said. "I believe the criminal fraternity in Essex are now looking over their shoulders." The 3 who died, Anthony Tucker, 38, Craig Rolfe, 26 and Patrick Tate, 37, were found in Rolfe's Range Rover last Thursday. It was parked in a farm lane at Rettendon near Chelmsford. All had been shot at close range the evening before. The killer used a sawn-off double-barrelled 12-bore shotgun. Mr. Dibley said the gun would have only been 6 inches away from each man when it was fired. The weapon has not been found, and he admitted the chances of finding it were now slim. He said, quote, "We are in contact with other forces who have had drugs-related killings. Certainly nowhere else in this country has seen 3 people killed in this way." Detectives believe that whoever killed the 3 was in the Range Rover with them. Mr. Dibley said the killer must have been very cool to act as he did. It was likely that a second vehicle, driven by an accomplice, must have been near the scene. At the inquest, which was opened and adjourned to a date to be fixed, Coroner's Officer PC Derek Sewell said all 3 men had been identified by fingerprints. A post-mortem examination carried out by Home Office pathologist Dr. Paula Lanas revealed that Tate died from multiple shotgun wounds and the other 2 died from shotgun wounds to the head. At least 8 cartridges were discharged from the gun. Mr. Dibley said the shots would have been fired very quickly. It is believed each of the victims was shot once and then the killer fired again to finish them off. At the inquest, coroner Dr. Malcolm Weir said although the victims were somewhat unsavoury, they were human. Mr. Dibley told him, quote, "We're going all out to identify the person responsible. A lot of people would say nobody's going to miss them, but the person who has done this to these three men is in some ways worse than them. Society demands that I investigate this as thoroughly as possible to bring whoever is responsible to justice."